The purpose of the Global CFO Council is to provide an educational and networking forum for senior financial executives in order to share best practices, discuss current financial issues, and to learn about current topics related to the performance of their jobs.
Dirk Scow is the CEO of Tactile. Looks like 20 plus years you've been in tech, a lot of it tech startups, growing companies. Think, if I remember correctly from previous introductions of you, you attended the University of Vermont, but that was mostly to ski, and then went to the University of Arizona, got a degree in psychology. I think you're a Denver Broncos fan
You remember well, yeah.
and an outdoors guy. And when I'm done with introductions, I want to hear about the fitness kick or nutrition kick that's clearly happened because, Dirk, you're 15 or 20 pounds lighter than the last time I saw you, and you were pretty thin to begin with. So well done. I don't know how you lost weight during the COVID pandemic when the rest of us gained weight. So well done somehow. So start with that. But Pete, you're the vice president at Lifecycle Engineering, retired U.S. naval officer. I know you to be a family man, but sometimes make poor decisions. And am I correct that you let an employee marry your daughter? Is that correct?
An employee son married my daughter.
Well,
Yes.
he's lucky he's a nice guy, but boy,
Yes.
that was a dangerous. I hope it goes well for that man, that young man.
Yeah, that was a slippery slope for sure. And continues to be in a good way.
Pete's also an avid golfer, recently playing some ridiculous thing like 5 or 6 rounds of golf in 2 days, and supposedly still working at his job. And he's an avid biker. And I know that Pete, something special I know about you is Pete biked from the top to the bottom of the west coast of the United States of America. And people, I don't mean motorcycle, I mean bicycle. Sleeping on like benches with a toothbrush in his pocket. So pretty impressive. We're very lucky to have you. And if you, Dirk, I'm going to pass the mic to you. I'm going to mute myself and mute Pete and look forward to the presentation and our breaks for Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. So just to answer your first question, I saw the Von Miller comment. I haven't checked. I hope he's still with the team. Let me just put it that way. But yeah, as far as my COVID kick, I live in an area west of Seattle called Bainbridge Island, which I actually recently found. Pete lives about 10 miles away, so which I had no idea. And if there's one place in the world to wait out a global pandemic, it's Bainbridge Island, Washington. We have everything we need. We have thousands of acres of parkland here, which is mostly forests, and yeah, I won't even call it a New Year's resolution. It's just something I woke up on January 1st and started to do. I moved to a mostly plant-based diet, and so far have lost about 35 pounds. So yeah, so went from 240 to 205. So I don't deprive myself when I want a steak or a sweet or something like that, but I think about vegetables first, and I exercise every day. So anyways, thanks for noticing, and excited to reprise my talk of I don't know how long ago it was. It was at least a year and a half ago. I think it was more like 2 years ago when we met last time, and at that time we were able to give live demos. This is a notoriously difficult technology to demo or to show off in a remote format. I suggested showing some videos along with this, and Robert basically said, "Hey, we can't guarantee the network connection, so I will provide Robert with a bunch of video links that he can send around afterwards that you can watch on your own." Really, and that's only halfway there. It's like if if a picture tells 1,000 words and a video tells 1,000 pictures, a hologram tells 1,000 videos, right? So this is a compounding sort of of an experience. But I'm going to talk a little bit about, for those of you who were not the 100 or so folks that made up the two different audiences that we presented to 2 years ago. I'll give a little bit of background on Tactile. We are an innovator in this space. We are creating this market, right? So we are at an interesting point in the augmented and virtual reality space, which is what our focus is, that we're just about to start to see scale, and I'll walk you through this as we go forward here. First of all, I want to throw out a few stats. We are at a point in time where the baby boomers in the U.S. at least are retiring in amazing numbers. We've got 2.7 million baby boomers expected to retire in the next, in the next half decade or less than a decade or so. These are the folks that work in industrial environments. These are people that work in factories and in utilities, industrial environments, that sort of thing. In this same sort of sector, when you think about the people moving out of the workforce, you have to think about the people moving in. Well, less people are moving into the sort of heavy industries, at least here in the U.S. The go to college, have a better life message has been a very successful PR campaign. And so the millennials and the Gen Zers are not coming into this space nearly as much as the previous generations were. And in addition, they work differently, right? And this is something we just have to acknowledge. I think old guys like me just say, well, the young folks, they don't have commitment and blah, blah, blah. It's easy to say that. But the fact is that the institutions are not serving the population the same way that they used to. It's much more difficult to find a company that is going to show you, we're going to take you through an apprentice program, we're going to invest in you, you're going to get a retirement, and you can spend your whole career with us. That basically doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it can happen, but that's not the way that it is presented. So we have this issue where attrition rate for new younger workers is very high. Now, moving more into the guts of sort of the industrial space, which is where our focus is, you look at downtime that's directly associated to human error, unplanned downtime, and that's roughly a quarter of that. So when you think about the title of my talk is Experts Matter, and that basically means that expertise matters. And if you don't have expertise, you're going to have human error. And human error leads to downtime, which leads to real money lost in a manufacturing environment, just to give one example. So our focus, again, as a company, is that experts matter. Our mission, Tactile's mission, is to make everyone an expert. Again, talking industrial environment, frontline workers, people that do not work behind a desk. We make everyone an expert by giving them knowledge when and where they need it. That's the focus of our platform, which is called Manifest. And Manifest is a platform to harness, distribute, and apply what you know. And this is basically what an expert knows. So what Manifest is it gives frontline workers instant virtual access to step-by-step guidance from your most experienced technicians and trainers anywhere, anytime. And as we get into this, you'll see we lead with the new breed of augmented reality technology that is available in handsets, iPads, headsets, that sort of thing. We have customers all over the world. They're a diverse set of customers. From we're heavy in military and defense related entities. So we work with all major branches of the U.S. military. We work with allied military around the world. We have customers on 6 continents, not quite as many members, not quite as many countries as I think the CFO Council represents, but we represent all of your continents, as long as no one's here from the South Pole. We work a lot with manufacturers, as I said as well. Manufacturers are sort of, you know, the public sector version of the military as far as their needs from a frontline worker is concerned. But basically, anyone who is working on things with their hands, we're talking about frontline workers. So a surgeon is a frontline worker, and a waiter is a frontline worker, and everything in between: airplane pilots, manufacturers, scientists in a lab. And you can imagine that every one of these processes can typically be broken down into step-by-step processes when you're doing something with your hands in a bit of a different way than knowledge workers do. So finally, just to wrap up a little bit about Tactile, we're founded in 2011. We launched the Manifest product 2017. We are the current reigning Microsoft Partner of the Year, Global Partner of the Year for mixed reality because of our Manifest platform. We have 45 employees across 5 different locations, and we're coming up, I think, on 60 customers or so, again, across 6 continents. So getting into sort of the meat and potato here, we are talking about enabling frontline workers with augmented and mixed reality. The total market size, Robert suggested that I put some data in here about the total market. Total market size is expected to reach sort of into $1/3 of $1 trillion by 2026. CAGR during the same time period is substantial. As you can tell, the software space, which is the part that we care about, is expected to be north of $30 billion, and associated sort of bottom line numbers here. So if you can imagine the knowledge worker, so we are all knowledge workers, right? We all sit behind a desktop or behind a laptop or whatever. We've had all the tools that we've needed for the last 25 years. Let's just call it Microsoft Office, right? This is a suite of applications that we use to do word processing, use spreadsheets, do presentations, etc. When the pandemic hit, all we did was learn how to use Zoom, right? So last time we did this meeting, it was in person. Now it's virtual. All we did was expand our reach, right? Now we have to get good at setting your, how you produce yourself. You have to work on the mic, and you got to get a better internet connection. But these are all minor improvements. Frontline workers, for example, up here in the Northwest, Boeing is and actually in where LCE is, Boeing is a big employer as well. When the pandemic hit, Boeing basically sent everyone home, turned the machines off, turned the lights off, locked the door, and then laid off 10% of their workforce, right? That is not a measured response. That is a reaction to a service disruption. So what that really sort of talked to is the fact that the industrial world was woefully unprepared for this type of a service disruption, right? And there was no sort of fixing it when no one could go into the office, right? So there was a big lag. Obviously, the government in the U.S. and around the world went to great lengths to make sure that that companies, as many companies as possible, didn't go out of business, but many of them did. And that's because they were unprepared. And so we look at where we were 2 years ago from to now. Like 2 years ago, probably 10% of Fortune 500 companies with 500 employees or more had implemented HoloLens or looked to it. Now it's 90%. And we're going to talk about what HoloLens is here in a minute. It's one of the headsets. This market is expanding rapidly. The use of augmented reality in manufacturing, again, this is an area that collects a lot of stats around augmented reality. It is seen to be very varied, let me just say. The main use, which is where our focus is on upskilling and extending workforce capability in equipment maintenance. Visual work instructions on a factory floor, that goes from maintenance to operations. Like, this is, people think about virtual and augmented reality as a training only tool. Our focus is what happens when you deliver that same digital transformation that knowledge workers got with a tool that allows them to have a digital interface with the real world. That's a major game changer, right? So variety of different use cases there. Companies leveraging AR are seeing great improvements. They're seeing better improvements than what they had expected. So let me sort of use this period here. We're about 20 minutes in to pause and take any questions that may have come up, Robert.
Hey, Dirk, I do. I got a couple questions, and one from that very last slide, so I'll start with that. And it's around the use slides, or the uses slide mentioned eliminating manuals. And the question was around augmented reality and virtual manuals, kind of like, I think of YouTube on steroids when you're working on your car. You know, do you see a use for that? Is that a growing? We're at 57% now. Do you see that as a growing trend?
It is absolutely a growing trend. Most manuals, if you walk into an industrial environment, were updated in 1995, right? And you have, not only do you have outdated material, but you have outdated learning modalities, right? You have the new folks that are coming into the workforce right now have grown up on video games. You know, I mean, I used to go to the arcade. You know, I loved it. We had one of the original Ataris, and you know, my parents had to pry me away from it. It's a natural learning mechanism. We think about learning now as gamification, right? We think about fitness as gamification. There are fitness applications for VR headsets, and I have friends that, you know, never exercise, and they play some games on the Oculus, and it gets them moving, right? So this is not just, again, the flippant, you know, laissez-faire attitude of the younger generation. There's real benefits to virtual and augmented reality, and it's also very compelling. It maintains focus and energy of the people using it.
Yeah, I would love to be able to lift my phone up and know exactly where the part is I'm supposed to change is near my brakes. You know, I was just doing that this weekend, and a video is helpful, but augmented reality would be pretty cool if it like pointed an arrow once I moved my phone right at the thing. That would keep me from killing myself.
Yeah.
Next questions around hardware, and you're a software company. I believe you're completely or near completely hardware agnostic. So I think you're perfect. This is the perfect question for you guys. What's the future of the hardware? Is it phones? Is it a tablet? Is it a headset? Is it Iron Man sunglasses?
Yes, it's everything. You see, you know, Apple has done more to further the state of the art in augmented reality than just about anyone. And there's, the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. Virtual reality is I'm in a completely virtual environment, and uh, the entire environment has to be created. Whereas augmented reality, as we're going to get into, and I'm going to talk about both of these questions, by the way, as I go through my presentation here. As you can see, this is a photo. Again, I've sort of grabbed some photos from some videos to show, but this is a photo of Army personnel down in Fort Hood following a step-by-step instruction on our platform manifest over a tank. And as you can see, he's looking out. He's got a set of HoloLenses on, and he is seeing a set of instructions in front of his face like that. Now, this is an augmented reality headset. It is transparent, and it allows for digital artifacts to be presented as if there was a screen there, and there is not. Now, in this case, we feel that eventually for the industrial space and for frontline workers, the head-mounted glasses sort of form factor is really the ideal form factor. But in order to get access to the multi-billion-dollar install base of existing devices such as phones and tablets, etc., we support all of those, as do many other solutions. And Apple has they have a platform called ARKit that makes it very easy for developers to create content for the phone or for the iPad. Android has a corollary called AR Core. And there's a whole bunch of different devices in between. There's devices that are head mounted that are not full mixed reality headsets. There's like a boom with a little video screen at the end of it that's made for use in very severe environments, such as steel foundries and stuff like that, where you can't you can't walk into an area where your vision can be occluded because that's an OSHA violation, and it's not safe. For our customers, every time you walk into one of their facilities, the first thing you see is a sign above their head that says, "It's been 92 days since our last accident. Let's keep up the good work." Right? So does that answer the question?
Yes,
Robert?
yes.
Okay.
And I'll give you one more, and then I'll hit you with the rest at the end of your part.
Great.
But it's going to be around languages, and just for the rest of the audience, my limited experience of buying a few headsets, it's like I'm buying a brick and there's nothing on there. It's like a computer that doesn't have Microsoft Office in it. That you got to buy Microsoft Office separately, so now my computer does something, and then I can manipulate data using this tool because I have the software. And I kind of think of like Tactile like that. You're the software that powers this brick that I just bought. So based on that, here's the question. So is Tactile available in other languages? And the documents that the team members say are using in all these different use cases we just talked about, can they be presented to them in their natural native language?
Sure. I mean, the different types of content that you can capture with our solution. So it's actually a good lead into this slide here. The three things that you look at when you think about deploying an augmented reality solution for a workforce, you think about capturing knowledge, distributing that to the workers, and then how the workers apply that knowledge and the enterprise applies the learnings from the use of that knowledge. When we talk about harness, so you have to make the content very, very easy to capture. And so what we've done is, and there's other ways to do this as well, but for example, we've turned the headset into a production studio. And when you put a headset on, you have the opportunity to create a video, use voice for voice to text transcription. You can type this out. All of this stuff can be done in your native language. There's actually the controls itself from how the more sophisticated technology gets, the easier it should get to use. I think was it Walt Whitman that made the famous quote when writing a letter to a colleague, "I'm sorry, I didn't have more time to write a shorter letter." Like it's really difficult to do simple technology, and so as this evolves, it gets simpler and simpler, and the way that the user should be able to interface with this should be almost regardless of what language they speak, right? When you have Microsoft Office, obviously you have a bunch of icons that you click on to do various things, but you're typing in your own language, you're creating content in your own language. That's the same goes for this right now. The interface itself, the manifest interface, we have this in a variety of different languages, but that's not really a blocker. And in fact, depending on where our customer is, and many of our customers that we have in Africa, for example, they have illiterate workforces. And so their content is all video and images, right? And so you can imagine any sort of digital content can be presented to a worker, video, photo, voice, PDFs, any of that stuff can be brought in. Robert, should I continue to pause, or should I okay, great. So we talked about harness, making it very simple for folks to capture that knowledge. That's where you have to start. If it's going to take you a month to create a step-by-step process for something, you're never going to get anywhere, right? The next thing is distribute. How do you distribute this? This tends to get a little bit more technical, but like most people think about the cloud, they think about getting something online, like getting access to your Salesforce data or Office 365. That is all what's referred to as a cloud implementation. And the three main cloud providers are Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. There's many others, but that's a standard way that we deploy this. However, for our military customers that comprise about 50% of our business, they can't have their data stored in a public repository. They want to have control of that. They want to have it behind the firewall. So that is a consideration that you have to think about. What sort of solution allows you to deploy this in the modality that you need? Who's going to give you end-to-end security, encryption, etc.? And there's many companies that do this. We're not the only ones. And then the application of this really goes to that headset and that form factor mode. Like, when we started in this business in 2015, working in mixed reality, we were part of what was called the HoloLens Agency Readiness Program. This is a Microsoft program that basically taught companies how to build a computer program when you didn't have a keyboard or when you didn't have a mouse, and how you do that. And the first question that you ask is this a 2D problem, or is this a 3D problem? Similarly, when you're using this technology, augmented reality technology, say, is this a headset problem? Is this a handheld problem? How are you most likely going to be able to deploy this and use this in the field? And what is the general application there? So again, perhaps I should have put a couple of these images earlier. If we jumped into the deep end for everyone on the call, I apologize. But basically, this is taken from one of the videos that we have of the use of manifest. So what you see is you have a person using a headset. You have an interface here. This can, in effect, be sort of considered an application that similar to Word or Excel on your desktop. This this person is capturing their knowledge. They are authoring content with the system. And what they've done is they're into step number 7. They've drawn these leader lines to the place where they want whoever is going to be using this next to draw their attention to, and they are deciding to take a video. They have clicked on a drop down menu. They've said, I want to create a video. It gives them a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then the cameras that are embedded in the headset that are seeing the subject matter in front of the user basically starts to capture and starts to record. And that is how we make it very, very easy for frontline workers to capture their knowledge. Now, you can see the same thing is being done here with an iPad in a manufacturing environment. This is a company called PBC Linear. They're a 300-person manufacturer in Wisconsin, and they have completely moved from paper manuals and these apprentice programs to self-guided training in these environments. They create something like 70 step-by-step processes every month, and they continue to go forward. But this is how it looks when you're using a headset. Now, finally, there's another application here when you're talking about the use of this technology in the field, and that is how you support that worker when they're just stuck. Let's say there isn't a step-by-step process done. So this is actually a mutual customer of ours. This is Cat Marine, mutual customer between LCE and Tactile. And on the left, this is a person on the shop floor, and on the right, you've got the expert guiding that person through a step-by-step program. As you can, if you can see it, he's looking at his computer screen. He's seeing what the guy on the left is looking at, and he's able to draw in the field of view of the worker on the left, and it shows up in context. We refer to this type of a head-mounted computer as a spatial computer. So it is constantly mapping the surfaces and the environment that worker is in, and the guy on the right can put indicators and markers that show up on that piece of equipment directly in the location. It's not just a look for this. It is, this is the thing. Like, do this here, right? So that's sort of how it looks. Again, I encourage you to go through some of the videos that I'm gonna send. Robert, you asked the question about about manuals and the conversion to manuals. Well, that is the primary use case for this technology, and I just wanted to pull together a few slides here. I promise everyone I did not plant that question, but that is the focus of the next few slides here. So what we've done, this is an example of some content that we pulled from the U.S. Army at an engagement that we have with them. This is out of Fort Hood. They have this inspection process for this Abrams M1 tank, and this is a paper-based process that they'll tell you at the high level is standardized, but you get down there in the field and it's absolutely not standardized, right? They do these inspections by hook or by crook, and the goal here is to take a manual and convert that into a manifest, what we call template, which allows a person to go through this step-by-step instruction without having to flip through a manual, without having to find anything. It guides them through this in a step-by-step manner. So you have to pull out the valid information from the manual, convert it into manifest or whatever application you're using for this. The question, another question that you asked, Robert, was how, from a language perspective, how is that used, and how can we enable that? Well, you see here on the left, this content is put in by the user. And that can be any language that basically is supported by the majority of computing platforms. This is, this is Windows. So if it's French, it'll be French. If it's Farsi, it'll support Farsi. The only things that are embedded into the application itself, you have a number. You do have this. A couple of different elements here that are written, but most of this is icon driven, right? And then when you're pulling in your content, this is just cut from a PDF. This is whatever you want it to be. Now, you have to be able to support really rich use cases such as decision trees, right? So that's something that you should be able to embed into a step-by-step process. Another thing that is very important is that you actually be able to capture structured data either manually or through IoT integration. So here you have, in this case, you have the ability to type in whatever mileage was listed last in the tank, but that can also be brought into in an IoT environment. So if it's a shop floor and you want to do an inspection of a connected piece of equipment that's connected via IoT, you can ingest that at the point of inspection. But again, all of this is form data mapped to process in this system, making it, to use a bit of a crude term, to make it stupid proof, so that you can just go through and do this without looking at a manual at all. And these are just sort of examples. So what are the benefits? We've got customers that have gone from 3 weeks to 3 days to get people trained up and running. The U.S. Air Force, in independent research that they have done, again, using our platform, they've reduced, in one process that they looked at, they completely eliminated errors. And I have that report if anyone wants to see it. And another mutual customer that we have has taken a process from 2 hours to 40 minutes. Now, improvement of speed of a manufacturing process is not really what we hang our hats on, right? We are talking more about eliminating errors and increasing safety in that area. But even so, you can see that you've cut in half the amount of time that it takes to do a process. So what are the devices? Again, we talked about tablets. There's a variety of different headsets. Every single OEM or sort of cell phone manufacturer and equipment manufacturer in the world is working on a headset right now. So we're about to see an explosion of this. Use cases, just to summarize: training, operations, maintenance, remote assistance, troubleshooting, inspection, product support. This is everything that frontline workers do. And then finally, I'm going to wrap up. I've got 2 more slides. I know we're butting up on time here for my portion. 5G is a big driver of this technology, and I wanted to bring it up because you see 5G talked about a lot by the carriers in their commercials. But if 4G and LTE was about enabling the general population, 5G is about enabling the industrial enterprise. And there's a whole variety of reason that it is. But we have relationships with every major U.S. carrier and a number of carriers around the world, because getting this technology out to the field requires solid, low latency, high bandwidth pipes, and 5G is going to show us that way. It's a big market, and I'm just going to finish with that because I'm over time already.
I'm going to hit you rapid fire. I got like 10 questions. I think I'll get to 5 of them. So you get 1 minute answers. Okay. And we're going to start with my son's question. He has an HTC Vive. He's a gamer. And is there something coming in the pipeline that's better than that he needs to be saving for?
It's upgrade cycle, baby. I mean, there's going to be something new at least every Christmas, but probably twice a year. We are coming into, not only is this market starting to hit, but we are getting to the point where manufacturing processes are so good that it's so much easier for these electronic companies to release new versions, and every time that it's going to make economic sense for a manufacturer to start releasing these things, they will do so. So it's like, when do you buy a new cell phone? The day that it comes out, or when it goes on sale because they just announced the next version?
Question number 2. Is the next pair of glasses I get going to have mixed reality, and it'll pop up that, oh, hey, that's Dirk, you're connected to him on LinkedIn, he just posted something about a promotion, and then I can say, hey, Dirk, congrats on the new promotion? How far away, if you had to put your futurist hat on?
If you're an early adopter, that's today, right? It's as soon as the Snap headset comes out, they just announced a consumer version of this. And just like there are different vehicles for different jobs, like you've got pickup trucks, you've got sports cars, you've got sedans, right? There's going to be different headsets for different use cases. Right now, the headsets have been designed for industrial use and for enterprise use. The headsets that are available for the general public are much less compelling, and they're more like pop up a message in your field of view. Is that important to you? If it is, then you have actually a few solutions that you can choose from right now. And again, Snap just announced, they just announced, by the way, this is interesting, a data point. They just announced that they have this new headset out, and then the day after they announced they bought the company that built the optics for the headset for $500 million. So this is a market that is moving rapidly.
Next question. You seeing any mixed reality events? Like, are people doing career fairs or sporting events or concerts?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Microsoft bought a company that enables that. Many of you may know about sort of, the second city sort of environment where you can go in and you can build entire cities, entire worlds just on your PC. Those things exist in virtual reality. Those exist today. And I've attended a couple of virtual events. They're a bit wonky, but they're actually pretty compelling. I mentioned that we have a relationship with all 3 major carriers. I met a guy from Verizon at one of these events, which was actually a virtual golfing event on my Oculus Quest, and we were paired up. And so on the virtual golf course, we made a deal. That's a true story. And we now have a joint marketing agreement with Verizon, and we're actually working on an agreement to go to market together.
Wow, I have a shot at being good at virtual golf then, because
you're way worse at virtual golf than I am real golf, and I'm a bad golfer.
Oh, all right. Well, Dirk, that's all the time you have. So I have a bunch more questions I'm holding, and let's pass the mic to Pete, and Dirk, you'll navigate, and I'm going to mute you and me.
Hey, thanks. And hey, everyone hang on, okay? Because I'm going to go through a couple of slides real quick. I'm just going to add some color commentary to all of this. One thing to remember everything that Dirk said, because I'm not going to repeat it, because all those things that this platform does is being applied in real life. And I'm just going to showcase some of those real quick, 2 of them in particular. The picture, thanks for allowing me to share this picture. This is me. This is my happy place right here. 33 years, I served as an operator and a maintainer, mostly in submarines. But my wife still walks by me. I have these up all over my office, and she still shakes her head, and she says, she's from Scotland, and she says, oh, you're still a wee boy. Anyways, I am, and it's all good. Quick sea story. Decades ago, specific to submarines, we had tenders all over the world. Tenders are big ships, submarine tenders, surface ships, that the submarines would go alongside and get fixed. And they were awesome. They were in Scotland. They were in Rota, Spain. They were in La Maddalena, Italy, Norfolk, Charleston. They were in Guam, San Diego. So they were everywhere. We couldn't wait, as a submarine operator, we couldn't wait to get alongside a tender to get fixed, because they were awesome. You know, we were out of the shipyards and we having sailors fix sailors' stuff. And these crews, these repair crews would spend an entire 20-year career just going from tender to tender to tender, and they were artisans. They were national treasures. They could fix anything. That went away. Budget, age of the ships, for a lot of different reasons, geopolitical reasons also, those things just atrophied. The training pipelines went away. The shore intermediate maintenance facilities went away. And all of a sudden now, present, we have 2 submarine tenders, both of them in Guam. They're run by civilians with Navy crews on them, repair personnel on them. They have to pick up the phone. They call Pearl Harbor. This is in Guam, right? Pearl Harbor, 4,000, 5,000 miles away. Some shipyard workers have to fly all the way to Guam. That's expensive. You multiply that by 2 or 3 jobs per day, extended over months. You're just talking stupid money. And then exponentially think about that throughout the fleet. So next slide, please, Dirk. So why is this mixed reality? Yeah, that one right there. So why is the mixed reality important, and why we're employing it, as well as other companies? It just, we've got a generation of gap to make up. Conventionally, it would take another generation to get that back up to where we were. But these opportunities, appealing to the age group and the demographics now that we have in the Navy and in the military, this is just a perfect fit. It fits for the training. We talked about the manuals being embedded, all the things that we used to sit at desks and do. All the training can be tailored to apprenticeship level, all the way up to expert master mechanic type levels. But the thing that's really cool is that digital interface, in that when they run into a problem somewhere and they're looking at something and they go, uh-oh, Houston, we've got a problem. Instead of picking up a phone and getting shipyard workers to fly 4,000 miles in, blah, 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 they can have real-time communications, talking with engineers, talking with other technicians, and fix these things, in an hour instead of 10 days and $500,000. So that's an incredible, it's how it has to be done. I'm so thankful for companies like Dirk and Tactile and Dirk leading the charge here that has provided us an opportunity to start doing that. It's just magical. So and the trending and all the historical data now that can be stored. Next project that we're working on is a huge, some of you here stateside may have heard about it. It's called the Shipyard Infrastructure and Optimization Plan. It's a 20-year, $20 billion contract that's come out. It's actually $22 billion now because they've added private shipyards. In the United States here, we have 4 major public shipyards: Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Norfolk, Virginia, Bremerton, Washington, and Pearl Harbor. And they focus mostly on submarine and carrier work, nuclear work. These things, folks, are over 100 years old. Absolute incredible work that gets done. We're not training people how to do the work. However, we have to do something about these 100-year-old infrastructures. Building new dry docks, building new piers, putting buildings where they make sense and flow, to cut time, be more efficient, get submarines and aircraft carriers out to sea on time, and do what the heck they're supposed to be doing. I always like to, when I go to high schools and stuff, and I try to get people interested in this type of business, I say, this is not your father's shipyard, and we talked about it. We're looking at gamers. We have a bias on what shipyard works looks like, and it's not people walking around with 50-pound come-alongs. I want shipyard work to be sexy, and Tactile and other companies have made this work sexy. So what I envision as we transform these shipyards, both brick and mortar and digitally, I envision a digital halo around every worker. Not only manuals, safety, stop points, trends, historical data. How about HR, personnel stuff, break times, schedules, real-time talks with people. I just really envision, as we're spending this type of money to transform these shipyards, let's move it to the next level and just create this bubble that's inevitable, right? It's going to look like the Jetsons, so let's do it now. And that's kind of two just little things that we're doing here in the Department of the Navy that I find interesting, and it keeps me getting up every morning. That's for sure. That's it.
Well, Pete, I wrote down bringing sexy back. So
yeah, I didn't read the crowd here. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but
yeah,
I'm
no,
saying, 33 years sailor here, so.
I can't believe that's all you said on this call. My finger has been on the mouse every word.
Watch. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I got one question for each of you. And Pete, I think this question's a good one for you. The question says here, and there's two I'm combining. Hey, my restaurant or hey, my hotel is noisy and dirty. Can these things work? Can the headsets work? Can the software work in that kind of environment? You might be a good one for that one, Pete.
Well, they certainly can. I mean, if they work in submarine tenders and industrial environments, hard environments. I mean, we use these things out in Guam. It's 95 degrees every day, but down in the deck plates, it's in some of the Conex boxes, it's over 110, and it's nasty and it's dirty. So I say yes. Dirk might have more specifics as terms.
Yeah, no, there are specific headsets that are designed for specific environments. The HoloLens 2 just released Microsoft just released a sort of a ruggedized, a hardened version of the HoloLens 2 that is intrinsically safe, which for those of you in the oil and gas business know that means that it can be used around volatile gases. And the state of the art is improving dramatically with every generation, and the generational releases are happening in a very rapid succession these days.
Dirk, question for you is, what's the future of mixed reality with the combination of AI?
That's a great question. There's actually DARPA just announced, and we submitted a proposal for a vision for how AR meets AI, and you can imagine, like, in effect, what this system, what our system is, what other systems are content creation and consumption platforms. Massive levels of content being created in a way that has never been able to be created before. It's not just about videos and images and stuff like that. It's also about contextual data. It's about the digital twin and the mapping of the real world and storing of that map. And when you start to create, when you have a little bit of information there, you can't do much with it from an AI perspective, but you can imagine over the years, and you catch terabytes and terabytes of data, you can then consider applying AI to those processes to look at how things were done effectively in the past, ineffectively in other times. And as AI in parallel starts to get embedded into the industrial environment, aided greatly by AI and, by the way, other networking technologies like 5G, this becomes, I mean, it's a bit of acronym soup right now, but the fact is that this is all conspiring to reach that same ultimate objective, which is about enablement, right? No one wants to train, like no one wants to, but imagine, like, you have a person that knows how to use a system and has a basic level of understanding of the tool set and the processes required. You know, if you're going to train them in a normal environment to become an expert at thing, maybe they'd be able to become an expert at 2 or 3 or 4 things. This would enable someone to be able to show up and be an expert at anything. It's that Matrix moment where Trinity and Neo are on top of the building, and he says, "Hey, do you know how to fly the helicopter?" And she says, "Hold on a second. I need a pilot program," blinks her eyes a couple of times and says, "All right, let's go." That's what we're after.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to close. That's exciting. We should all watch The Matrix again now that we've been fully motivated. It's the future is near. Appreciate it, Dirk and Pete. This is fantastic. I got a bunch more questions. What I'm going to do is provide your contact information out to all members. So if they want to follow up, they can reach out to you. Thank you both very much. And to the folks on the call, thank you for participating. And like, comment, and share my post about this on LinkedIn. And you too, like Elisa, could be the Spread the Word winner and get an awesome box of swag from me. So thank you and have a great day.
All right. Out of here, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.